This episode is brought to you by Audacia Capital. Audacia Capital is a leading fixed income specialist on the Irish Stock Exchange. Audacia Capital is known for its bold and innovative approach in the corporate bond space. For more information, visit our website at audaciaplc.com.
This is the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show. I'm Glenn Hoddle.
Hi, and welcome to the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show. This is episode 31. Episodes are released every week, and we hope you will join us throughout the season. Today we'll discuss some of the stories from this weekend's Premier League action and look forward to the Champions League and FA Cup. Glenn answers questions from the Evening Standard newspaper for his weekly column Ask Hoddle, which you can read every Monday. Well, Glenn, we should start at the Spurs-Manchester United game, and what a great second-half display it was from United this afternoon.
Well, it certainly was, yeah. I mean, United second half really pinned Tottenham back, and Spurs found it really difficult to get out and try and hit them on the break, really. 1-0 up, I felt that it was probably going to be Jose's way of sitting in and then maybe hitting them on the counter, but it didn't happen like that. United absolutely sort of swamped Tottenham to a certain degree second half, pushed a lot of men forward and played a couple of, 2 or 3 patterns of play that were really exciting, and their goals were excellent, I've got to say. There wasn't much in the first half. Spurs obviously scored with Son, but United overall deserved to win over the 90 minutes. There was no doubt about that.
A lot has been made about Mourinho tactics. Of course, when he was at Chelsea and probably at Inter as well, when he got a 1-0 lead, they were able to defend that. But have Tottenham got a good enough defence, back four, to defend a 1-0 lead? It would appear from the stats that it's not the case.
No, I think that's where Spurs need to strengthen without a doubt next season if they're going to do anything. I've thought this for a little bit of time now, that there's too many players there that are maybe going into the winter of their careers, and I think it needs some fresh players in there. There's a couple of younger players that are not quite ready to, they'll come in and do a job here and there, but there's no sort of real sort of backbone to the back four, where they're going to defend, and experienced defenders. They had the best pairing for a long time, as in Vertonghen and Alderweireld, 4 or 5 years ago, and I think they've got to reshape and rebuild that end of the pitch without a doubt if they're going to do anything successful over the next coming season.
Have you given up on VAR yet after that Fulham game on Friday night and then the goal of the day? This
is the problem with VAR. I thought it was going to be a very positive thing for football when it came in, but they're getting involved in things that I never dreamt for 1 minute, that you'd be looking at fractions for offsides, and you'd be looking for this little touch here, touch. The referee's got to be allowed to referee most of the game, or 99.9% of the game, as we used to for many years. VAR is coming in for the absolute clear and obvious that an official has made a mistake, and I think we've got to get back to some simple basics on that. If not, it's ruining the game, and I think there's a real danger. An absolute danger that people won't want to go to the stadium, and that's a frightening prospect. They won't want to be in the stadium because they can't celebrate a goal.
Yeah.
They're waiting for VAR, and fans want to celebrate their team scoring instantly. It's not wait 1 or 2 minutes and then celebrate. It's not the same then. And the more VAR interrupts every single goal, players are not going to even celebrate.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a massive part of the game that I think everyone in football, they've got to think about for the future of the game and the future generations of kids coming through, wanting to watch the game. After all, yes, it's a business where, clubs, and there's a lot of money involved in football, points to be won, results to be needed, but it's an entertainment business as well. And I think, there's nothing like, we're finding out we need fans in the stadium. It's not the same without fans, but I think we could isolate ourselves if we don't watch it through VAR, and just the celebration of goals alone, let alone all the other things that we're talking about. So I think it really has to be a revamp and be looked at in the coming future.
Yeah, one of the major problems is they go back so far in the move, don't they? It should be the last kick, maybe. That's when the offsides used to be valid on the last kick. Now we're going back 6-7 moves before we can decide if it's a throw-in, if it's not. It's ridiculous, isn't it, to be honest?
No, I mean, the game isn't meant to be absolutely perfect.
No,
there's not robots out there. I think the referee's got to be given some power, and if there's, as I say, a clear and obvious scenario, keep the on-field decisions, the correct ones. Keep them. If there's a clear and obvious mistake, then there's a blatant handball that we haven't seen. That's what I thought it was being brought in for. If the ball was over the byline, and it had gone out of play, or if it was even to penalty decisions, whether somebody's just clipped somebody. Go back to making that. Sometimes it's the angle of the referee that can't see it. If it's really clear and obvious, somebody's gone over the top of the ball and there's a penalty decision, make the big decisions that go, penalties and stuff like that. But not every single offside, 2 moves, 3 moves back before the goal scored, things like that. I just think we're making a massive rod for our own back.
Exactly. As a great tactician yourself, you'd have appreciated Manchester City, Leeds, 2 great men involved there. And what did Bielsa do to stifle Manchester City?
Well, I think there was a stage where I thought, well, they're too deep. They really went into their own penalty area, and then their midfield dropped in right on the toes, almost on the edge of the box. And they really didn't keep a release man up, which was very difficult anyway with 10 men. And I just felt that it was only a matter of time that City were going to score. What they did do is they held out for much longer. So in the end, when it went to 1-1, if they'd have had another 15 minutes to defend, I think they'd have come unstuck. But in actual fact, they always looked, when they did actually manage to get the ball down and get out, Man City in some ways didn't show their respect that they should have showed. Their centre-backs was throwing themselves so high up the pitch. You just felt if they could actually get a little bit of possession, they might create 1 or 2 chances, which is unusual when you're playing against, a good side like City and you've got 10 men. But you just felt that on the break they could actually cause City problems because City, they went gung-ho. They went too high up the pitch, and consequently that's exactly how Leeds got the winner. But what a fabulous result, probably the best result of the season. I've got to say, I know Villa beat Liverpool 7 at home, but to go down to City away from home, with 10 men and end up beating them, not just getting a point, that would have been good enough, but to beat them was a fabulous performance. It really was.
And with your England hat on, what do you think of Raheem Sterling this season? Has he dropped off a little bit? It seems to me that he's not quite as consistent as he has been. Yeah, just a little bit. Maybe Sterling misses having that sort of focal centre forward. Maybe I don't know. The rotation. He's had a little spell sometimes as him as a full centre forward. They do it with De Bruyne, and they've done it with all different Foden, all different types of players at times himself. So maybe he's one that prefers to have that sort of focal centre forward in there. And Aguero's been out for so long. And it's affected his game a little bit. But, hey, listen, he's been very consistent over season after season. It's impossible to just keep churning performances out and time after time. He's just hit a little bit of a blip, but I'm sure he'll come good again. And, he's not been playing bad, don't get me wrong, but he's just not affected the game as much as he has done. He set a standard that's so high. Sometimes it's tough to keep that standard going. This episode is brought to you by the Lily White Foundation. We believe sport is fundamental to the development of young people, but sadly, many young people in difficult financial or social circumstances don't get the opportunities most of us take for granted. The Lily White Foundation supports projects that help children and young people take part in sports and activities. For more information, go to lilywhitefoundation.com. You're listening to the Glenn Hoddle Footy Show podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with Glenn, this is how to do it.
To get in touch with Glenn with a question for a future Footy Show podcast, you can email glenn@midnightuk.co.uk or send a tweet to @MidnightMix.
It's the FA Cup next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Chelsea against Manchester City. Will Thomas Tuchel first of all be delighted with the win at Crystal Palace where they dominated, and will he be looking at what Bielsa did and try and replicate that a little bit to try and stop City on the weekend?
Well, I don't know if I think he knows I think he knows his team inside out now. You know, he's only lost one match, but I think he's got them playing exactly how he wants them to play. Mm-hmm. That first half against Palace, you know, it was some of the sharpest football that I've seen Chelsea play for many a year. The 1 and 2 touch football that they played was exquisite, and they had an end product to it as well. So I think, you know, the confidence of knocking Atletico Madrid out, you know, the performance the other day with Porto, they're growing, they're maturing as a team. I said 2 years ago, I think Chelsea, and that was under Frank, you know, need a couple of years. They need 2 years, and they'll be contending for the Premier League. Yeah. And I think Tuchel now has took this on, and I think deep down, I think he's going to relish the challenge. You know, when you play City, you've got to be at your very best, and I think Chelsea now have got a squad that can go and, you know, on a given day, any given day, go toe to toe with the best, and they're just growing in confidence as a team. You know, if they get through in the Champions League and get to the semi-final, well, anything can happen, can't it? You know, it could be Liverpool, it could be Real Madrid. So they're a team that you don't want to play at the moment. They look a very confident unit.
It's a strange situation. They go back to Seville to play the second leg, having won there 2-0. So if Porto score a goal first, they're the away team. The game's on again, isn't it?
Well, that's very true. It's a bizarre scenario to be in, isn't it? To be fair, I mean, the only difference is yes, most important thing is you're deemed as the away side, and so your goals, you know, count double. And the only difference is you go in the home dressing room or the away dressing room, which is a little slightly different. So, but it is a little bit strange for all of the players and clubs and the result, really. But no, listen, what I saw, I think Chelsea will be okay. I think they'll get into that semi-final. I really do. As I say, they're playing with a lot of confidence, and it's the squad that goes so deep. You know, players, they're missing players, but other players are coming in, and the team are staying at you know, like a 9 out of 10 form. So you know, I expect them to get through to the semi-final, and it's going to be an exciting finish to the season for Chelsea.
Yeah, and the other game, of course, the winners, Real Madrid and Liverpool, they both won on Saturday. Real Madrid won El Clasico, didn't they? Are you a fan of La Liga? I think you said you used to watch it a little bit in the past. It's difficult to get hold of these days, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's one of the things. It's a shame, you know, those games, the Clasico is a fantastic fixture, isn't it? You know, Barca are not quite the team they were. There's a rebuild going to go on there, I would imagine, particularly if Messi leaves. But you know, Real Madrid are not the Real Madrid of yesteryear, to be quite honest, you know. So, you know, Liverpool have had their ups and downs. So I think Chelsea get through, which I expect them to, as I said. I can, you know, there's a pathway there to the final. It really is. And I think if you look, you know, you thought about that, I don't know, a couple of months ago for Chelsea, there's a lot of football to be played, of course, and it's easy for me to say from outside looking in. But I genuinely think they've got a really good opportunity here to go all the way.
And how much of a disadvantage is it for Liverpool having to play at Anfield in front of no crowd? That's the big miss, isn't it? I mean, the amount of times they've gone back to Anfield and it's the 12th, and it really is the 12th man. That's not going to be there for them. You know, I think if they had a crowd in, you'd expect them to really think, actually, this is well beyond, you know, this is something they can actually achieve again. They did it to Barca. They've done it to Dortmund over the years. They've done it to many teams over the years. But, you know, I just wonder, I just sense that Madrid, I could see them getting an away goal, which is going to make it very, very difficult for Liverpool. I really do. You've got some history against both Barca and Real Madrid, I'm told. 82 Barca Cup Winners' Cup semi-final, and 85 quarter-final against Real Madrid. A bit of a bloodbath, they tell me. Butragueño and Valdano was in attack. What are your memories of those two matches?
Yeah, no, I remember the Barcelona one was strange, because the Barcelona, you think of good football, silky football. Well, I think they had about 6 players out of their best team, and they put hatchet men in, and I think if we'd have had a strong referee that evening, we'd have got through that double time, because we played really well, but they actually kicked lumps out of us, and at the end of the day, we ended up 1-1 at home. But a stronger referee, they would have had 2 or maybe 3 sent off. I've got to say, even back then, let alone the rules now. So we were a little bit unfortunate there, and I think it was Simonson who got the goal in the Camp Nou. So yeah, it was a very close full game, as was the Madrid game. And that Real Madrid game was so frustrating for us. It really was. We lost at home. We went away. We played really well. We controlled the game in many ways in Madrid. Mark Falco scored we all, to this day, we could still be scratching our head seeing why the goal was disallowed. But he scores a fantastic header, and the goal was disallowed at a vital time in the second half. So, right. Yeah, there was a story behind them results that was difficult for us to take at the time, but great experiences and fantastic stadiums and clubs to play against.
And finally, with the Champions League, Manchester City Dortmund's 2-1, that's very wide open, and Bayern Munich PSG, well, that's incredible, isn't it? There could be goals anywhere there. I
think Bayern Munich have got some injuries. They really have got some players out, key players out. So anything can happen in that as well. You really can't call them games. They're going to be, I think it's going to be down to actually just the finishing at the top end of the pitch. You know, when you get the Champions League and you get the top quality football and internationals, it's normally down to the teams that can finish better. And my word, there's some fabulous finishes, you know, in all them teams. And I think who takes them chances will come out as victorious.
I should mention West Ham performance in the top 4 under David Moyes. Who'd have thought? Leicester seemed to be struggling again at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. They had some players drop today, didn't they, for COVID-related reasons, they were saying.
Chris, that is the last thing that Brendan Rodgers wanted, something like that to upset the apple cart. It really is. It come at the worst time, and for the life of me, I don't understand. I don't know the inside story, but at the end of the day, I don't know what these young men are thinking in this day and age with this pandemic as well. I really don't. And Brendan decided to do what he'd done, and it's come unstuck for him. They were poor again, today, and then they've got the FA Cup semi-final coming next weekend, and this all couldn't have happened at a worse time. They look like they're, slipping down that. They look catchable now. Chelsea can catch them, West Ham can catch them. They're in sight. Whereas a few weeks ago they were out of sight, and you thought it was going to be a battle for the 4th place for about 5 teams. Now there's 2 spots open, and Leicester have only got themselves to blame in many ways.
Yeah, they're just a point ahead of West Ham, 2 ahead of Chelsea at the moment. So that's just a game, isn't it? That's 1 week really. Anything can happen. Let's finish today with the questions for the Evening Standard readers. Quite Tottenham related, as you would imagine, after today's performance, I think. But we start off with Jimbo, who says, do West Ham have any chance of keeping Jesse Lingard when he's at this sort of form? Surely there'll be other top clubs all over Europe chasing in the summer. Makes it even worse if he gets in the squad for England, I thought.
Yeah, I think he's going to be knocking on the door for Gareth. It's a great story because he was out in the cold at United and now he's come back. I think he feels at home at West Ham. It's not so much, what other clubs might come in. It's whether West Ham can make him feel really comfortable. Yeah. He's happy there. He's certainly playing well on the pitch. He's playing superb on the pitch. And as you say, he's got a chance to get in that England squad. It gives you some different type of options. He can play in a few different positions. But he is a man that's going in. If he was going into the Euros, he's in top form. He's going to be confident. But I think a lot depends on how he feels. He might love living in London and around London. He might see his future there. Or he might think, well, let's just sit there and wait and see what clubs come in. But for sure, I think he needs to move away from Man United to get the best out of himself, and he's doing that at West Ham, and they'll move heaven and earth to try and keep him.
And I guess COVID, even though it's coming to an end over here in the UK, it's certainly not in Europe, so maybe moving to Europe not as quite as exciting as it was in the years gone by.
No, exactly. And I feel for some of these players as well. Look, the Chelsea lads, they've taken, the two German boys really have taken a long time to settle. And you don't know. Yeah. Because of this pandemic, you have to settle off the pitch. I don't know if their families have come with them. If they're isolated and they're not getting out amongst something, socialising with people, friends they might know over here that are German, or even their teammates and their families. And these things all come and have an impact with a player, and I think that's a possibility why they have took a little bit longer to settle in.
Ishmael, he asks, who do you think deserves to be Manager of the Year in the Premier League?
Cool, yeah, that's a real tough one, that is. Out of the blue, that question, it's easy to say Pep. Because I think they will win the league. But, it's... I don't know. I can't answer that, really. I don't think there's one outstanding manager that deserves that accolade, actually, at the moment. I think, see, down the bottom there, you think teams like the way Brighton have been playing, and they're going to keep themselves safe. I think that's to be admired. Graham Potter, what he's doing there. There's things like that. There's stories behind different clubs. But, it's easy to say Pep, isn't it? I think if Pep wins the Champions League, you've got to give it to Guardiola, I think, because that's the little bit of pressure that it's internal pressure they put on themselves. That's the one the owners want, isn't it? That's the one that put all of this money. They want to be kings of Europe and then remain kings of Europe. So, that's eluded them at the moment. But if he does that, I would go for Pep. But it's a good question. I'm not sure there's anyone else really that you could... I mean, Tuchel's only coming, halfway through the season. You can't give it...
I guess if he wins the Champions League...
David Moyes might be one. David Moyes, if they end up in the top four, I would say David Moyes, without a doubt, would be one that seriously has to be looked at. But if Pep goes and City go and win the Champions League, it would be Pep. Okay. So there's two there for you.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll be back again, looking back on the Champions League and the FA Cup ties next week in episode 32. Stay safe, everyone.
That's all for today. See you next week.